This is Bunker Hill Monument in Charleston. We are across the river from Boston, and this was first devised as a diversionary tactic to help get some troops off and into Boston, but it became a major battle. And it was one of the brightest stars at this point in American history, although it was a loss. But what it was, some men came up and they were going to stop on Bunker Hill and set up a fort. They were going to dig a fort and try to get the British to think about them while they were doing some other things. And so they went over and they led them in darkness and very quiet, because it was supposed to be a secret and they were going to build the fort at night. And so they came across and stopped on Bunker's Hill, and they decided, no, this isn't right. We need to go on closer to the city and closer to the waterfront. And so they came on over here, and of course this is Breed's Hill. He said, why do they call it Bunker Hill then? I'm not sure. Nobody's sure. It's the Battle of Bunker Hill on Breed's Hill. They were just normal guys, and they were in the Minutemen and all that, and they had decided that this was to be a good thing to do. And it's like, wow, really? You've got numerous ships of the British Navy right there in the water, and they can just bomb us with their huge cannons. Plus, there's thousands of troops just right across in Boston. Why? Because they thought it was the right thing to do. They were tired of being told what to do. They were tired of being said, we are going to tax you, but we're not going to give you any representation. The British government was acting against their own constitution. And they really weren't planning on a major battle here either. But through the night, they dug, they built their little fort, their redoubt, they called it. General Gage and them saw them over here and said, hey, that is ridiculous. We're sending all these troops over. And they come over, and Prescott was here. He was the leader. Dr. Warren came over. He was here. And they said, we are going to stand up and we're going to fight. And so they were bombing the place. Then the British started coming. They came, and of course they just marched up the hill with all their regalia on. And of course, what was the famous line that was said here? Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Because the muskets weren't all that great, and they didn't have a lot of powder, they didn't have a lot of shot, and they weren't going to waste it. And so they marched up and just, killed a bunch of people. And they came again, same thing happened. They said it was just terrible massacre. British come again. Now we're out of powder. We're throwing rocks and everything else, and come with their bayonets and start killing people, and we retreat. So, well, what's so great about that then? We had to retreat. The British said, wow, so we've got a huge problem on our hands. If they had good commanders, it says we don't have a chance. This hill sat empty until 1825, and a group came to commemorate the laying of the cornerstone. They had a big meeting up here. 75,000 to 100,000 people came up here that day, and there were 200 men who fought in the Revolutionary War, and there were 40 of them who fought in the Battle of Bunker Hill. And of course they had the Orator of the Day come. This was in 1825. Who did they get? Daniel Webster. 18 years later, they finished the monument, and they asked the Speaker of the Day to come and give the oration. Of course, who was that? Daniel Webster. He said, let us feel our personal responsibility to the full extent of our power and influence for the preservation of the principles of civil and religious liberty. He closed by saying this, then when honored and decrepit age shall lean against the base of this monument, and when troops of ingenious youth shall be gathered around it, and when one shall speak to the other of its objects, its purposes, its construction, and the great and glorious events with which it is connected, there shall rise from every youthful heart the proclamation, thank God, I also am an American.